Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show, by any host, or by any guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before you begin any new diet, exercise, or training program. And thank you for listening to the Whole Care Network.
Welcome to Healing Ties on the Whole Care Network. On Healing Ties, we're creating a life to love after caregiving ends by sharing stories and resources and being with awesome people like you. Now that caregiving has ended, let the Healing Ties begin. Here's your host, Chris McClellan, the Bow Tie Guy.
Well, greetings everyone. It is Chris McClellan, the Bow Tie Guy, for our second episode of our 6-series podcast, Songs for the Caregiver's Soul, featuring Barbara McAfee. Barbara, welcome back.
Joy to be here.
Isn't it fun? We're doing these week after week. You just never know what's going to happen.
It's true.
Yeah. So remind our listeners a little bit about you and your background and today's song.
Well, I do many different kinds of things, but at the center of them all is voice. I'm a voice coach, a speaker, singer-songwriter. I lead a little community choir that sings for people in hospice or hospital settings. I'm a song leader, and I wrote a book called Full Voice, The Art and Practice of Vocal Presence, which helps people find their voice, whatever that means to them.
And you're also a caregiver.
Oh, am I ever. I have a 94-year-old mom named Winifred. Well, her given name is Winifred, but she'd never liked it, so she says, I'm win, not lose. Which is so her. She's a darling. She's a darling.
I hope I get a chance to meet Win, so that would be terrific.
I hope so too.
Good.
Yeah.
So we've already moved into week 2, and the song that you've selected, you sent this song to me a few months ago when we first met, A Living Dying Man, and it touched me so much as now 4 years past my caregiving experience. It really spoke to me as well, and I guess, before we listen to the song, tell us how the song came about.
Well, I wrote it in a big fat hurry, actually, because my beloved friend Jamie Shokir, I met he and his wife through my publisher, actually. He called me and said, I have terrible news. I have ALS, Lou Gehrig. And then I swore, and then he swore, and then we cried, and then we swore some more, and then we laughed, which is kind of how we roll. And his whole approach to that experience was that he wanted to talk about it. He wanted to, one of his books is called, their books actually, it's called Authentic Conversations. And Jamie loved nothing better than to talk about real things in a real way. He was unflinching, and he wanted to do that in his dying as well. And he did. And so in listening to those conversations, we would Skype now and again, and I would read his wife's blogs, and I went to visit several times where they lived in Phoenix. At one point, I really just wanted to say, I hear you, man. I heard everything you said. And your experience will be remembered. So I wrote the song quite quickly. I remember being up on a stepladder washing windows when the third verse arose. So I was washing the windows and crying and talking to myself.
Oh my goodness!
And then I went right into the studio and made a live recording, a video recording, and then I also got to sing it for him in person. I flew down to Phoenix, and I've sung for big groups of people. I've done a lot of performing over the years, and I don't remember a time I wanted to get it right. His son was there, his wife, another dear friend, and I remember just sitting at that piano going, how am I going to do this? But I did it. And then we all cried. And then after he died on his 63rd birthday, he had a good death, actually. He died on his 63rd birthday, and his wife asked me to officiate his memorial a couple months later. And I said, I'll do it, but not alone. So his cousin, who actually looks a lot like him, and I did his memorial service, and I got to sing it there as well. So I always, whenever I miss him, I just sing the song, because it just feels like he's in there. he's in there.
He's in there. Well, let's let our listeners enjoy Barbara McAfee's Living Dying Man.
Living, dying man, through with making plans. Tomorrow is a place you will not see. We hate to see you go, and even so we know mortality is clarifying. Death becomes less terrifying when you look it straight in the eye. Time to live, time to die. You live and die and well, and all the truths you tell, when any hope you had has finally set you free. You've made it very clear, heaven is right here. Reality is fortifying. Death becomes less mortifying when you look it straight in the eye. Time to live, time to die. Live and die, and friend, coming to the end. There's nothing left to do but love and let you go. We are just like you, we're living, dying too. And all the lessons that we learned will be there when it is our turn to live into our dying as we do. Thanks to you. Living, dying man, you're through with making plans. Tomorrow is a place you will not see. We hate to see you go, even so we know mortality is clarifying. Death becomes less terrifying when you look it straight in the eye. Time to live, time to die, time to say goodbye.
Oh goodness, Barbara! I almost want to play that song again. It's just it just has so much meaning. There's just so many wonderful messages there. Hope sets you free.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness, I'm sitting here trying to picture you singing that song to your friend and his family, and the meaning behind that. To be able to share those lovely words with somebody that you care about.
Yeah.
What a life lesson.
Well, and what do you give a guy who's sitting in a wheelchair and he, it's like what you're so. One of the gifts I think of the Morning Star Singers is this little choir is that there's when people are near the end of their life or even living with a debilitating condition of some kind, there's so many pleasures that are not available. You can't get in your car and drive or go on vacation, or, there's just the world gets so small. And I think sometimes music is a way to open into a much larger place and offer something that's useful to that person in their day and their journey. And so I felt like it was very well worth going there, really getting inside of his experience enough to be able to write that. I had to step into his shoes.
I can just, as I'm sitting here thinking about, I'm not a songwriter. I may sing a time or two in the shower when nobody's around, but the words, when words are put into song, everybody from all different walks of life, all different cultures, they can just really grab onto that, because music really does satisfy the soul.
Yes, so I hear that it can provide solace and some. It just changes now. Of course, science is now catching up with what Grandma always knew. How it changes, your very biology to hear a song, or even better, to sing one, regardless of your talent level. It's good for us. We're meant to do it, and
There's something good about singing that it just kind of goes down to your toes, that you can just it releases tension. It brings new meaning to words. It connects people.
Yes, it sure does. That's why I always include getting people singing when I perform. I always invite and then give people options. If they don't want to sing, I invite them to provide acoustics to those who do.
I'll be the lip singer, so no.
There you go.
But another part of the lyrics that really touched me as well, Barbara, was death becomes less terrifying when you look it in the eye. And goodness, Jamie was certainly looking at it right in the eye, as really, a lot of caregivers end up really having to look death in the eye with the person that they're caring for.
That's true. And I think that it's just sad enough to say goodbye to someone you care about, but I think the stories that I hear that break my heart especially are the ones where nobody wants to talk about it. They're all just saying, "Oh, I'm sure you're going to get a lot better," and the person's like they're on the oxygen, and they're not clearly going to get better. Yes. And it's just like, what are you so afraid of? There's so much possibility in those moments to make peace and say what needs saying, and to admit being terrified, or admit being at peace or regretful or something. I mean, there's just it's such a doorway, it's such a possibility, and I just feel so sad when, and culturally we don't get, we don't learn about how to do this until we're like smack in the middle of it, and then we learn how to on the people that are closest to us.
Right.
And I remember that when, my dad had died, and he died at home, and Mom called the funeral home right away, and we have talked since. It's like, we should have sat with his body. We should have washed his body. What were we thinking? And, well, we weren't. And now I know, and can step in with other friends to say, do you want to sit with the body for a while? You don't have to, you don't have to call the people right away, or, but we pay dearly, I think, for our ignorance about how to die and how to care for each other in that process. A big part of my community here has gone through a lot of death and dying and caregiving, and we've got a kind of a collective intelligence about how to do it, and singing is a part of it, and having, taking care of people ourselves is a part of it.
Well, and it's so important to be able to talk openly and honestly about one's feelings, especially at the time of like one of life transitions, or leading up to that, because for most of us we're just not prepared, and as most of us are not prepared to be caregivers, because it just it happens because of an unfortunate accident or an untimely diagnosis, and all of a sudden you're thrust into this role, and nobody has a plan when they're when they're approaching caregiving, and most of us don't have a plan as we're looking at our end of life wishes as well. But
that's true.
Goodness, through your songs, I think calmly think about these really important issues that we don't often talk openly about.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a lovingly sneaky approach. To just sort of sneak in and say, "Hey, have you thought about this?" And before people know it, then there they are. They're thinking about something that they might not otherwise think about.
You're giving me lots of things to think about today. This is just awesome, Barbara. Goodness, and we just got a couple of minutes left to let our listeners know how they can find your music and your book and find you online.
Yes, the easiest way is at my website, www.barbaramcafee.com. All of my music is available on iTunes and Spotify and places like that. And my book is Full Voice is available online in all those places that you find books, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, things like that. But the easiest place, there's a lot more videos and things like that on my website as well.
And there's a video of Living Dying Man, if I remember correctly.
Yes, featuring my friend Dean McGraw on the guitar. He's looked death right in the eye, his own self. So.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
I encourage everybody to go to your website, and maybe we just might be able to put that video on your landing page on the Whole Care Network. What do you think?
That'd be great. I
think that'd be awesome. And Barbara, through the great work that you're doing with beautiful songs and advocacy, you are certainly someone who's creating healing ties all around us. I can't thank you enough for doing this with me.
My honor, Chris.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, and we look forward to next week's podcast as we listen and chat with Barbara about her song Brain Rats. Now that is going to be I'm looking forward to that one too. So we want to thank you for listening, and we welcome your comments and feedback. Send us an email at wecare@wholecarenetwork.com. I'm your host, Chris McClellan, the Bowtie Guy. I'm creating a life to love after caregiving ends through radio, writing, travel, advocacy, and being with awesome people like Barbara McAfee. Healing Ties and Song for the Caregiver's Soul are part of the Whole Care Network. Visit us online at thewholecarenetwork.com, where you can meet our show host, listen to all our shows, especially our podcast series featuring Barbara McAfee. Make it a great week, everyone. Be well, bye-bye, and enjoy this encore performance of Living Dying Man.
Any hope you had has finally set you free. You've made it very clear, heaven is right here. Reality is fortifying, death becomes less mortifying when you look it straight